And welcome once again to Hude Hour, but today we are looking at Hude Progress Report, an offshoot of our regular Hude Hour programs. We take a look at happenings around the world and we take a look at the progress being made as regards development. Yes, problems abound all over the world, in Africa and all other continents, but the main goal of the Sustainable Development Goals and what we do here is offering solutions and then checking for progress, seeing what progress is being made, what solutions are being developed, and how far they are going to solve the problems that we do have on hand. As always, I am Amadine Ubewe. Welcome.
And I am Joan Eze. Thank you so much for joining us. You're welcome.
All right, also joining us now is Paul Oladipupo. Paul, how are you doing today?
Very, very well, thank you. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Paul.
Good morning.
How are you?
It's a beautiful morning, isn't it?
Exactly. Every morning is beautiful, actually.
Okay.
Well, let's be politically correct and say, yes, every morning is beautiful.
Yes.
But, especially for morning people, every morning, they wake up energized, ready to go, a drastic
Well, for some of us, we're not
the-
morning people, but the coffee helps us to, get into
That's
that.
so westernized. That's fine. Anyway, today we have a number of things to delve into, so we'll go straight into our first news item of the day. In response to unprecedented flooding affecting over 4 million people across 14 countries in West Africa and Central Africa, governments, UN agencies, and humanitarian partners are intensifying efforts to contain the damage and long-term resilience. Recent data from the World Food Programme reveals widespread devastation, with Chad, Mali, and Nigeria among the hardest hit. In Chad alone, over 7 million hectares are underwater, displacing more than 2 million people. In Nigeria's Niger State, hundreds remain missing after flash floods destroyed entire neighborhoods in Mokwa. The floods, driven by intense and irregular rainfall patterns, have exceeded historical norms, particularly in the Lake Chad Basin, where rainfall has already surpassed two standard deviations above average. Experts warn that the rainy season, expected to last through October, may bring further damage. Despite the challenges, a coordinated emergency response is in motion. The World Health Organization is delivering medical supplies, UNFPA is establishing mobile clinics and safe spaces for women and girls, and IOM is providing emergency shelter. Officials are also emphasizing long-term solutions, including improved flood forecasting systems, stronger water infrastructure, and sustainable land use planning. As climate extremes grow more frequent, leaders say strengthening regional cooperation and investment in adaptation is key to preventing future crises. Well, it's a very sad situation there, and when we talk about what we even do here, humanitarian development, is because we know that there are times where things will happen that require immediate reaction, so you can save lives, properties, and as much as possible. Now, with the events that have happened in Mokwa in Niger State and in Chad in the previous year, actually extending to some within this year, but the most recent one is the Mokwa incident in Niger State. It shows that there are a number of issues on ground. Now, while it is common for especially flooding as a global context, one of the first things people mention is the effects of climate change, the rising water levels and all of that, increased heat leading to melting and all of that. But within the African context, if we have to analyze it holistically, we realize that there are other issues, sometimes dealing with things that might be deemed incompetence or perhaps just not enough being done. And I think that's one of the things we need to watch out for. And in all of this, the main thing, even what the experts are saying, is early warning systems. Now, I think a perfect example to use is the Philippines. The Philippines are also susceptible to floods. And we've heard how they've developed these systems, and not entirely on the government, by the way. Some organizations and bodies came together and developed systems. And you'll hear interviews with people who live in the rural areas saying that in the past, they had to always go out and check the water level, with their eyes. So you go out, you check. You're living under that fear that you could close your eye for a second, and when you open it, you are submerged, especially during the rainy season. But with the advent of early warning systems, these people now get alerts on their phone, and they don't stress so much because all they do need is the early warning systems. And we hear a lot when people say things like, why not? Why don't you? Taking Nigeria for example, that the government does give announcements, but it's not easy for people to uproot their lives at the end of the day. So when you get that early warning system, you can't do what you need to do, but you don't necessarily have to lose your home. So I think these are the various things that could be employed. As we're saying, like I mentioned, the UNFPA, other UN agencies, the government, everybody is doing something, mobile clinics, and so on and so forth. So these are this is the core of what we're talking about here, the solutions that are being rolled out.
Well, you've said it all, honestly. Whenever I see people go through things like this, it pierces my heart, okay? And it makes me feel very, very bad about it. Flooding is one humanitarian crisis that is very, very unfortunate. And it's not only affects lives, it affects properties, it affects agriculture. A lot of people lose a lot of things. So I think this particular strategy that has been placed for me is a good one, and getting alerts from your phone, making you understand that okay, something is about to occur, so wherever you are, start moving away from that particular place so that you don't become a casualty. It's a good one, and I look forward to, in as much as yes, the UNFP is going ahead to supply some humanitarian aids and other government officials are doing same. It's also important that let this particular issue be solved, in a good amount of areas that are actually experiencing this particular crisis. That's for me.
Well, it's a very sad one to see that, flood, that's one natural disaster that I can almost say that we can't avoid it because, again, it's a natural disaster, but it has affected a number of people. In 2024 alone, it affected about 7.5 lives across Chad, 18 countries here. Million, 7.5 million persons across 18 countries in West Africa and also Central Africa, and really sad to see things like that. Not just affecting their lives, also affecting their economies and things like that. And also, we're also seeing that he also affected agriculture as well, that you mentioned, affected about 960,000 hectares of land, of arable land that is meant for agriculture. But what we'll be expecting to see in the coming days is building a more resilient environment to avoid things like this. Also, we should be expecting to see, put things in place, basically, putting structures in place that will help to mitigate these things so that when the flood hits all of these communities, we don't see number of losses. People don't have to lose their lives, their home, their means of life, of life. Not just crops, even livestock as well. I mean, all of these things are affected, and it's really sad to see.
Yeah, I just want to add, when you mentioned livestock, flooding even affects the natural flora and fauna.
Yes.
That's why in some time when Nigeria experienced floods about 2 years ago, people would see pythons in far off distances. You see crocodiles elsewhere. Because these animals were being disrupted from their natural habitats and taken elsewhere. Yeah. And I just want to add that one of the recommendations there is regional collaboration. Yes. And this is what we see in the issue with the Lagdo Dam. Yes. We have a dam that is being opened pretty much on a yearly basis, and people are suffering on a yearly basis. And still, there hasn't been this sort of collaboration to ensure that something is done. I mean, there are talks that this is something that should have been solved way back in the 90s or earlier than that. Yes. But, that's another matter because we're here now. And then we have Chad, like you mentioned. Chad's flood last year actually led to more casualties or more displacements, more people affected, and in the previous 15 years combined. Yes. So it means that, things are really getting worse, and that collaboration is necessary. But let's see what What's next?
Okay, I was actually trying to mention something, but let's take a look at our verified voices from IMO talking about this flood issue here in West Africa and also Central Africa. It's a very interesting one to see and also see actions that have been taken. It says that we are saddened by the devastating flood in Nigeria. Over 150 lives lost, thousands have been affected, and entire communities submerged. We are working closely with Nigeria government and humanitarian partners to assess the damage and coordinate response. And I think that's one of the things that it should be done. And also in terms, as in coming days, you should be expecting to see more anticipatory actions in terms of anticipating things like that and trying to prepare for them so that they don't affect people at the end of the day.
Indeed, that's what we were talking about, how these collaborations are helping save lives.
Let's move to the next news item that we have. European Union telecom ministers have adopted a new cyber crisis management blueprint aimed at strengthening the bloc's ability to respond to large-scale cybersecurity incidents. The blueprint provides a clear framework for how member states and European Union institutions should coordinate in the event of major cyber attacks that could overwhelm national capacities or affect multiple countries. The updated guidelines build on the 2017 blueprint and integrate new legislation, including the NIS2 Directive and the Cyber Solidarity Act. It outlines when EU's level coordination should be triggered, the roles of key agencies such as ENISA and EU Cyclone, and emphasizes cross-border cooperation, public communication, and civilian-military coordination, including with NATO. Poland's Deputy Prime Minister, whose country holds the rotating EU presidency, called the move a decisive step toward a more resilient and better prepared Europe. The adoption follows extensive discussions under the Polish presidency, including a cybersecurity-focused council meeting in Warsaw in March. Okay, so when we talk about cybersecurity, it's talking about the protection of attacks, malicious attacks in systems, in networks, and data, and all that. So this particular strategy and structure that has been put in place by the European Union is a good step in order to ensure that the civilian and the military are working together to make sure that, okay, everywhere is safe, the cyber is secured, and every other thing that they need to work together to ensure that there is a high protection in their database, their computer systems, and everything that they need to do in order, because I remember literally that they are a little bit vulnerable and they need this particular protection to make sure that they are not accessible and they are not being attacked. So I think that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Oh, you want to go first?
It's very nice to see. I mean, we usually will see it in all of these movies where there's a cyber attack and then light goes off in the community, in the country, where there's traffic jams here and there. And so it's just nice to see that the EU are coming. Well, this is not the first time of them coming together to actually agree on something. They all have I think that's the GPDR to protect their database and all of that. So doing them doing this as well is more like them continuing what they've started and ensuring that they are safe. I mean, last month they had this vulnerability check database that was released to check how vulnerable they were. And I think with all of that they were able to get back, and that's why they're putting this now in place to ensure that their security is very tight. And one interesting thing about this blueprint is that it goes through all of the stages. What should be done if they have a cyber attack, from the point of even before it happens, as protective, ensuring that it doesn't happen, preventive as well, and things like that. And even when it finally happens, all of the things that are to be done to ensure that their data, once again, is safe. And I think it's just very nice to see that they have these blueprints all out and will help them in the future. I mean, it's very nice. I think just last month there were talks around, because there was a time where there was blackouts in a country like Spain, and then we were pointing that it was cyber it was a cyber attack, and then it was later cleared actually there is no cyber attack. So all of these things are things that should just be put in place so that they are sure of what exactly is coming their way, and they're able to repair whatever is coming. Because I mean, again, you can never can tell. In all of those movies, nobody tells what happens, and then all of a sudden the lights goes off, and then that's what they're trying to prevent there in Europe.
Yeah, and I think the main thing is that it's now more than movies. There are accusations left and right when certain things happen. And why Europe is so specific in this instance is how, will I say, close, or the ease of movement. You know, sometimes people can wake up in one European country and have lunch in another one, and then go for the other one. That ease is usually there. So cyber attacks that occur in France can affect people somewhere else in Europe, and that's why this plan is a bit modified, or is different, because I think similar was tried in 2017, but in 2025, with all we see, with the advancements in technology, we have the use of AI these days, where its reality is becoming a bit difficult to tell. And so when countries work in silos, especially ones that are this close to each other, one's shortcoming can easily affect the other, and they share a lot. So that is one of the reasons. And what you said, which is one of the key points for me, is that it's not just a plan to prevent, it's a plan to recover as well. Because sometimes people think that once an attack is successful, it's over. But not really. There are countermeasures. There are ways to recover what you've lost. There are ways to ensure that whoever has attacked you cannot make use of what they've got, if they've got anything. And these are the different strategies being put in place. And again, the key takeaway here is that it is being done in conjunction, in unison, because anyone going alone, you know, these days borders on a line don't matter as much. On a map, yes, we know this is Spain, and this is Germany, this is, you know, different countries. But when it comes to the cyberspace, we're all in the same place, and that is why this is very important. And the main thing also is that how then can other countries, other continents, particularly Africa, start to do this? Because standing alone is going to be hard, especially when you know that we don't have as much of the capabilities to help ourselves. But together, you know, using an analogy, 5 like this is lesser than 1 like this. Okay. So the unity is the whole point there. So
that's actually very interesting.
Okay,
analogy.
So let's see what verified voices.
Let's get the verified voices from European industry tracing this story and telling us about how the blueprint should work and all of that. Let's take a quick one from European Union right there, talking about the same story of the blueprint of the cyber security to ensure that they are all tight. It says that the EU cyber security was adopted today. It sets out how the EU responds to major cyber attacks, when to act, who does what, and which tools to use. And this is just breaks all of this thing that we've said down, talking about where they are going to act, what each person is going to do, your role in all of this, and also what tools are we going to use if it happens, and also to prevent and all of that. And really nice to see, actually. You were talking about how borders are just like lines on paper, but today, in cyberspace, there are no borders, basically. There's no what's it called? There's no way to say that, okay, this is my own land and all of that. There's no way to put that. But in cyberspace, it's a land without borders, basically. It's space without borders, and it just goes on and on.
Yes, and the tweet just reminded me, you know, when it outlines who to do what and what. A key concern here is also the sovereignty of nations. So if a cyber attack has come on board, a stronger nation should not just say, I will handle it. You know, the nation that perhaps is getting directly attacked still has a level of sovereignty. What level of influence are you allowed to have? I saw some statistics from the EU themselves that the majority of the attacks is for public administration, and you have transportation and all of that. So if another country's public admin system is being attacked, the help you have to render, it must be insofar as you are not now extending to become someone who has access to even attack yourself. So I think those are the key things that blueprint highlights. And with that, we will go on a break now. When we return, we'll delve into our final news item of the day. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Now to our final news item of the day on the UN Ocean Conference. Now, the 2025 United Nations Oceans Conference opened recently in Nice, France, co-hosted by the governments of France and Costa Rica, with strong appeals to accelerate global efforts to protect the ocean. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres urged countries to make bold pledges, stating that although the world is facing turbulent times, the commitment shown at the conference gave him hope for meaningful progress. The French President Emmanuel Macron emphasized the need to revitalize multilateral cooperation under the leadership of the UN Secretary General. He said that mobilizing all actors, including heads of states, scientists, and civil society, was necessary to meet the challenges facing the ocean. Costa Rican President Rodrigo Chavez Robles described ocean protection as a moral and economic imperative and said the summit should be remembered as the moment the world recognized that safeguarding the ocean is not optional. The conference has brought together over 50 heads of states and government, along with scientists, youths, indigenous representatives, and private sector leaders. Delegates will focus on issues such as ratifying the 2023 Marine Biodiversity Treaty, protecting 30% of the ocean by 2030, curbing illegal fishing, reducing maritime emissions, and financing coastal resilience. UN Under-Secretary General Lee Junha stated that incremental progress was no longer enough and called for major investments and legally binding commitments to secure the future of the ocean. Well, that is the third edition that we've seen of this, and I think it has dawned on us how important it is the oceans are. From primary school, elementary, we're taught that the world is about 70% water. So imagine having 70% of your planet being covered in water and not having concerted direct efforts to ensure that it's protected. And as we can see, the protection cuts across various boards. Earlier when we were talking, I mentioned that some animals were displaced. And to some people, it might seem like a joke, an animal in the forest was displaced. But every living thing plays a role in the ecosystem. Yeah. Even some animals you might not think, little insects. Take, for instance, the bees and the butterflies. They are so important because they carry on the process of pollination and all of that. So a person might say, well, so what's there if a couple of bees, same with our water bodies. There's an ecosystem there that is flourishing. And things like pollution, things like not conservative hunting, which is one of the things mentioned. They want to come up with frameworks that ensure protection of species, because there's some things where they refer to as conservative hunting and the proper ways to go about these things, because we know that human beings are not just vegetarians and all of that. It exists all over the world. So these protections are key, and the UN Secretary General has already expressed some level of satisfaction or hope as to how that conference is going at the moment, and we hope that it leads to tangible results. The oceans are protected, because when it's protected, we are all protected by extension, no matter where you are. 70%. I mean, not of it is the oceans, but water, oceans. At the end of the day, these things matter.
I just want to chip in something very, very little. It's very important that, whenever, in fact, even when you go to the beach and the ambience of the beach alone gives you peace. So imagine when our oceans are not protected and they don't even exist anymore. I don't think people will want to stay again on this earth, but that's on a lighter note. So it's very important that we should protect everything that keeps us alive. Nature is very important to us. They, just like what you said, they play different strategic roles in our lives. The animals, when you said displaced animals, what came to my head was internally displaced animals. And it's not funny, but it's funny. It's funny, but it's not funny at the same time. But what I just want to say is, things like this is not things that we should neglect. It's things that we should be intentional about and ensure that oceans, waters, everywhere is protected.
Exactly. Talking about protection, I think I'm one that is very big against plastics. and that's one of the biggest pollution when it comes to marine pollution. It's about 80% of the marine pollution in total, where about 8 to 10 million tons of plastics end up in our oceans yearly. So I think the major issue here is actually the plastic, talking about that. But I would love to see more intentional actions from countries. I mean, now there's the nice action plan, and now I'm talking about accelerating action again in terms of ocean pollution. So it's all of these things we should be looking at in the coming years to see how exactly we'll get to a point where our oceans are not polluted anymore. But you also mentioned the fact that every organism has their own role to play. I mean, even the fishes in the water, they have their own role that they are playing. And not just that, you mentioned as well that 70% of the world is covered with water. Well, even our body as well has most of it as water. So when we look at the environment, everywhere around us, we are all surrounded by water at the end of the day, and we really shouldn't. And water is very important. I mean, water is life, basically, and it's important that we treat water as such, as one that is a living thing, and also try to ensure that it's being protected at all times. And that's we'll look at the verified voices from Antonio Gutierrez. That's the Secretary General of the UN. I almost forgot that for a moment. That's very interesting. But let's take a look at the verified voices. It tweeted, it says that the ocean is the ultimate shared resource, yet we fail it. Fish stocks collapsing, plastic pollution choking ecosystem, carbon emission driving ocean acidification and eating. And we have the opportunity to restore marine abundance. Today at the UN Ocean Conference, I urge world leaders to commit to the action needed to save our nation. And I think that's the cry there, that we really need to save our nations. Our oceans, exactly. And there are lots of things that we are doing that is harmful to it. And that's one thing that we all share. I mean, this end of this ocean is a continent, the other end is another continent. This end is a country, the other end you share it. And this is one thing that we all share. It's the same water body at the end of the day. And just like you said, if you've ever gone to the beach side, if you've slept there over the night, it's one place that is very relaxing, it's very warm. And we shouldn't even try, even while we enjoy that peace and warmth, we should try not to take the ocean's peace and warm as well from it, and we should ensure that we all come together to save our nation. And the very first step to doing that is reducing the amount of plastics that we use.
I think, I just want to add a little. I think people's mindset is whenever you trash things into the water or into the ocean, it takes it away.
Yes.
So imagine, have you ever thought of where it literally goes to? And most times, people actually get their drinking water from this same water you pollute. So when you pollute the water and you feel you don't make use of it, what about others? So our actions should also be intentional and should be deliberate in making sure that we give peace to the water and for other people to enjoy the water as well.
Not just our actions and inactions to ensure that they are all directed to save the ocean.
Yeah. Indeed, I assume you were also referring to freshwater habitats as well.
Of course.
So that's how we round off the program for today. Do join us once again on Hude Progress Report, where we bring to you happenings within the development space and how much progress is being made, solutions that are being proffered, even though the problems persist. There will be answers to them if we all work together. Join us next time. And for now, I remain Amadine Obewe. Bye for now.
And I am Joan Eze. Stay progressive. Bye for now.
I am Paul Oladipo. Ensure that we all save our nations. Thanks for watching.